I can still feel the burn of the cigarettes I smoked with you last night. I can still feel the wine I down. I just made it home, it's not the same now that I've changed. The desert always makes me feel that way, but it was you who took me deep, made me wonder, shouldn't it always be like that? Shouldn't it always be that night? You trust the one next to you, you make it out alright. We went through shit together. I know you took a lot of heat from me. We went through shit together. Looking back, what we saw was obscene. That weather, shouldn't it always be like that? Shouldn't it always be that night? When you trust the one next to you and you make it alright.
Welcome back to another episode of the Zeke Show here on Zeke TV. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I want to talk to you about why we need to think more deeply about defunding the police. I have a number of items I want to talk to you about, but first things first, I want to make sure our sound is perfect for you. Okay, it's pretty great. So I wanted to start by talking to you about why defunding the police is not enough. If we simply defund the police, we're going to have a number of issues, and the primary issues may still go unsolved. Here's what I mean. If the goal in defunding the police is to reduce the amount of unnecessary harassment, incarceration, and death, then absolutely we need to make changes. But there's more than just reallocating the fund, LAPD and other police forces. There's much more to the story, and here's what I mean. The mainstream news, as well as many of our public figures, they have a vested interest in keeping us divided. If I never link with you to build something, we will never have shared power and shared resources and the power of more than one mind. If we all stay plugged into our TVs, our sponsored ads, then we will continually have the division that we're seeing. One of the main keys in our country is the ability to come together for a common purpose. But this is being undercut by the narrative that we should fear each other and that we aren't on the same team. Citizens are on the same team. We should be on the same team, at least. So I want to talk about two really important points. And one of them is that the companies that put out these news shows, the David Pakman YouTube channel actually did a great show on this where he talked about the fact that many of the commercials, of course, are benefiting the same companies that are putting the news out. And in addition to that, those news channels are not just producing news. They have opinion shows. But it's pretty hard to tell what's an opinion show and what is the news that are actual facts being reported. This is one of the big issues with our mainstream news, and I don't believe the solution is that we all protest the news or boycott the news. Rather, why don't you and I find a way to get facts, because we have the power of the internet, and then share our conclusions with the people around us. The power has always been in the people because of our ability to activate around issues. But the moment we recognize the power we truly have, the current institutions become under threat. Think about it. All institutions' goals are to sustain themselves, are to perpetuate what they're doing. The police unions that defend rogue police officers, our local, state, and federal government bodies all seek self-preservation. How could they not? That's the goal of an organization, is to give a return to its shareholders and to sustain itself. So there's a fundamental vested interest in us, the people, staying disconnected. Because if you and I never talk, if I never talk to my neighbors, and we only stay plugged into our news channels, we will have not only perspectives that are being created for us, but we will actually lack our true power, which is unity. Our power has always been unity. Even though there were protests last year, the LAPD budget has increased. Even though we saw 2020 clearly present that the people want change, we're not seeing a lot of the change that was asked for. And here's what I mean. The reason defunding the police is not enough is because the issue is deeper. The issue is that our communities are consistently divided. The quality of roads. In fact, let me just start here. I live in Los Angeles, okay? In South Central, there are 3 core issues: a lack of traffic stoplights, road quality is extremely low, food deserts. A food desert is when it takes you a long time to get to a place where you can even buy food. Maybe it's miles and miles away. In urban areas that are heavily densely populated, this is a common theme. If you travel about 5 miles north, you'll find pristine roads, traffic stoplights, all kinds of assistance for traffic with signs and multiple lanes. And of course, many places to buy food. Dozens of places to buy food, right and left. So what is it that keeps this the way it is? I know people like to tell me, oh, but that's because the tax bracket. Okay, if that's the tax bracket playing out, we have a bigger issue. What I mean is that as long as areas are divided from themselves being able to organize and be a community, they will never have power. And as long as we are plugged into this matrix of, I put mainstream media and our public figures in the same box sometimes because many of them are working together. Many of them are in DC lobbying for change and then also getting a return on how well the news does in broadcast. In fact, I would like for us to not even call it the news anymore. I'd like for us to call it what it is, which is broadcast entertainment. What is news about giving somebody a cliffhanger and saying, we're going to be right back after this commercial break with something that surely is going to change your life for the worse. Stay right there. Does that sound like news to you? No, that's called entertainment. That's called storytelling. At its worst, you could call it manipulation. But I don't really see what's news about that. Watching C-SPAN, watching a live stream of the actual government proceedings, that is news. That is a fact. You're watching senators debate, that's news. Hearing somebody who is a shareholder for the company that's going to run commercials speak about an event on a platform like CNN or Fox, I don't really know how that could be news, other than the fact that that's our common term for it. So I'd like for us to call it broadcast entertainment from now on. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this situation, and what I mean by this situation, the United States of America, the United States of conflicted interests, the United States of corporate terrorism, it's not working. And it's not working for many, many people, not just a few. The sooner we can see real change. And that's why I focus on this item of community, because when we have community, we have meaning, we have purpose, of course, also opportunities. That's playing out right now is a lack of sustainable opportunities in certain areas. Everybody having to travel. If you have to take 3 buses to get to a job that's paying you minimum wage, that's not sustainable. And that should be looked at as a local issue. That should not be looked at as that individual's problem. Maybe if that was a small number of people. But we're at a saturating point where so many are so overextended to simply participate that it's showing us that it's not working. So what do I propose? Well, the bare minimum is to vote. Even if you don't think it's going to work, even if you don't think it's valid, it doesn't take much energy for us to vote. It doesn't take much time. So let's at least agree to vote, because then we can make a contribution. Bare minimum. Mail-in ballot, go in person, whatever. Just voting will give at least the action from the individual. And it's going to take a collective action from many individuals to see real change, real lasting change that works for everybody, not just a few. The other thing we can do is open up the silo of your mind to others around you in your community, on social media, on new social media apps. See if you can broaden your horizon by hearing perspectives that you haven't considered and ideas you didn't know about before. You don't have to agree with everything you hear, but one of the main products, the main byproducts of mainstream news is that a silo occurs. If I, Ezekiel, am watching the news, I'm getting into a silo of shared views, and it's usually around. It usually has some hysteria to it as well. That's not working. We're becoming more divided. We are not becoming more united. This is dividing us. And again, that's why I'm not saying it's the news' fault. It's our responsibility to wake up to the fact that we are feeding ourselves this media. Let me just watch. Well, guess what? That changes your mind. It's not just, I saw this. I've been watching this for so long. It's actually created new neural pathways, and it's created new beliefs and perspectives these views are not happenstance. It's by design. Social engineers in our country are some of the most rewarded financially in business, because social engineers are the ones who actually can manage and monetize your attention and my attention and create real results. What do you want? Let's say social engineering talking to a company. What do you want? Well, we want them to buy our product. Okay. The social engineer then creates enough desire through targeted ads, of course, through messaging, but also through psychology to lead you to believe you want something. Many of us think, oh, my phone's listening to me because it showed me this ad. Yeah, we know there's some truth to that. Sorry, I'm holding for this helicopter. I'm sure it's the LAPD. I'm sure that we know that our phones are listening to us on some level. But what's more important than that is that your actual perspective, the fact that you want this thing, is not coming from you. It's a product. It's by design. It was designed for you to see so many sequences of ads that at a certain point, you will want this thing that you never knew existed. Of course, that's marketing, but I'm talking about a bigger level of that. I'm talking about the social engineering level that happens through the news, through perspective creation. So we need to be aware. We need to take responsibility. We need to take responsibility for what we're watching, for what we're putting into our mind, and then how it's affecting us. Because I think that all of us could agree that there is a little more to life than what we're living right now. If there's more to life than what we're living, how are we going to get there? How are we going to change so that there's not so much tension in the streets? There's not so much tension when you meet a stranger. Families, groups, communities, many people are experiencing peak stress right now, peak division. This is not to say that everything is fine. We should all just hug and it's going to be okay. That's not the point. The point is that we're not even in control. The point is that you and I are not even the ones who are at bat, and we need to be. The last couple points is document your conclusions. Knowing what we feel is just as important as knowing what we believe about the world around us. You have an intuition. You have a voice in your head. If you're like me, it's sometimes hard to shut that voice up. That inner being, that inner child, the feeling part of you, it has an intelligence. And so if we can tune into that vibration, if we can listen to our self, get alone and quiet enough to create new thoughts that are original, then we can document those conclusions and with love, then we can have genuine dialogue instead of regurgitating talking points that are designed to be regurgitated. The last thing I'll say is there is no way to keep your current mentality locked while entertaining other perspectives. You and I can change for the better. I want to be better. I want to grow. I want to be as full and abundant as I possibly can be, and many of you do as well. If that's you, please entertain other views other than your own. We have a chance for a little bit of time to see the change all the way through. But it is not going to happen at this rate. It's not going to happen with us being slaves to corporate America and group psychology and capitalism. Keep in mind, I'm not saying it's this or that. I'm saying become aware of the way we're being used to drive this system forward. Ultimately, the effect of white supremacy is not the exact result of the design. In many cases it is, but in many cases it's actually more effective by downplaying it. There is no white supremacy. What are you talking about? This is just how it is. That's where the power of white supremacy lies. Because if the system is congested with a view and a perspective that is disproportionately valuable to the majority or to a group of people and disproportionately violent towards a minority, that's a problem. I don't care what you call it, but it's a problem we need to address because there's nothing free and equitable about that. So when you think about defunding the police, please think about community. Please think about what are we going to do to get back together as neighborhoods, as a place of safety, with more opportunity, with more food, with more infrastructure, a more fair distribution of taxpayer dollars. I'm not talking about taxing the wealthy right now. I'm just talking about, is it even fair the way things are playing out? Ask yourself, does it seem fair to you? And if it doesn't, what does it benefit some of these people to talk to you about what their solution is? In many cases, it keeps us paralyzed. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. If this resonates with you, please drop a comment. Please let me know what you think. If you disagree with this and got triggered, please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs down. Share it with your friends.